Hello my bookworms, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sydney. In today's video we will be going over my annotation process, what I use to annotate, how I annotate, what my color tabbing code system means, and some tips and tricks along the way to start your own annotation journey. So hey, what's up? How are you? I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me for a little bit. This video has been a long time coming. I have gotten a lot of requests to do this video. I just haven't felt like I had a specific system until now. I felt like if I were to come on here and tell you what I do to annotate before now, it would have just been like, well, sometimes I do this and sometimes I do this, but then not always. I don't always do that. But now I feel like I kind of have a set system of what my colors mean, when I use what utensils, and so on and so forth. So that being said, we can get on into the video, and I want to start off with just talking about why I annotate. There are a couple main reasons as to why I annotate in the first place, and the first one is to retain information. First and foremost, I don't annotate every single book that I read. Typically, the books that I annotate heavily are books in a series, books with a lot of characters, political storylines, world building, or magic systems, basically fantasies. I tend to tab a lot. And 3, if it is for a live show or a book club or something that I need to be prepared for and have talking points ready. Typically, all 3 of those are sometimes intertwined. But that goes into my first point of why I annotate, which again is to retain information. When I was in nursing school, the way that I learned best was to listen, read, and write. If I were to read the information and then I wrote it down, I had a good shot of remembering a lot better than if I didn't interact with that text in some way. So, annotating is a way for me to tab a certain point of a book and make a point in my head that that sentence or that paragraph or that little bit of information is pertinent in some way or another. Now, the colors come into play with that, which we will talk about later, but it really just gives my mind like a place that something was important and I should remember it. And typically my brain works in a way where if I specifically tab a part in a book that say a new character came in, then I'll put my colored tab there and then I will remember about where in that book that I put that color tab, and then I know about where to go to find out where that character first came about. And the fact that it's color coded will make it easier to find that piece of information that I need. That comes into handy especially in series when maybe I'm on the 3rd book in a series, but I want to go back and revisit some of the key characters or key points that happened in the very 1st or the 2nd book. By annotating and color coding what goes on in my stories that I read, it is so much easier to find exactly what I need and or relive my favorite parts. And for me, even though annotating is a logistical thing for me to help retain information and find information later, it's also just a lot of fun for me. I feel like when I annotate a book, I am interacting with the text. I'm interacting with the characters and the storyline in one way or another. If something in the story is making me mad, then I will put that color tab there, almost like I'm telling that character off. Or if something makes me sad, I will put that color tab there and kind of feel like I'm sympathizing with the characters, and so on and so forth. It just feels like a little bit more of an intimate experience because you're taking a moment to stop, choose the color tab you want, put it there intentionally, and in one way or another, you will remember that a little bit more so than if you just kept on reading and breezed through it. Which there's nothing wrong with doing that either. Again, I don't tab every single book, but the ones that I do, it is always a little bit more personal and I don't know, it's just fun. Plus for me personally, I'm a big like spine breaker. I will dog ear. I obviously write all up in my books. So if I see a book on the shelf that has a broken spine and it looks like it was loved and really read, I just love that. I feel like my books, at least, are here for me to experience, and having a tangible visual representation that I experienced it and I had thoughts about it just kind of makes it feel a little bit more personalized. And in order to personalize them to my standards for myself, we need to go into talking about what tools I use to annotate. First and foremost, obviously, the most important thing are the tabs. We have all of these colored tabs here. They come in many shapes and sizes, and there are also sets that have a lot more colors than what these do. But these are the only colors that I need. I don't want it to get too insane for me, especially because I tend to use certain colors more than other colors, which we will get into in a little bit. But these 7 colors I have made work, I have formed a system, and these are exactly what I need. So like I said, they come in many shapes and sizes. This one here has little arrows at the end of the colors so you can physically point to whatever piece of literature that you would like. Or we have the same exact size, but only they're just clean rectangles, which also is a vibe. I really like them. But my favorite are the little baby ones. They're so cute. Again, it's the same colors, but just small. I think the smaller ones look the cleanest in a book, and I will go through some like flip throughs and show you what the different styles look like. And then I have obviously these post-it note brands. These are hella expensive and not worth the money because these are much cheaper and you get so many in a pack. So I don't recommend the post-it note personally, just showing you that these are an option. They do look really cute in a book, but not cute enough to spend the money. And by the way, I will link everything down below if you want to check it out. But yes, so these are the tabs that I use. The colors we will talk about here in a moment, but the other vital utensil for annotating are the pens. We have quite a few options here. So my favorite pens are a click pen, so that you can pick it up, click it, and you're good to go. And my favorite clicky pens are this Bic Atlantis Exact pen. It's a super fine tip and it's a ballpoint pen, so it doesn't smear and it never skips. It just feels really nice. And my other favorites, mostly because of how they look, because they're super freaking adorable, they are Pocket-O pens. I don't know, I found them at a local indie store near me and I love them now. So these are all click pens. And I honestly bought them because I thought they were colored ink, like the respective colors of the pens themselves, but they're all black ink, which is fine. They're still super cute and I will use all of them until they're gone. These ones are more of like a gel pen and the click is pretty satisfying. The two other types of pens that I will use occasionally are these metallic, really thin pens. I really love how these write. They again are a super fine tip gel pen. They never skip. They feel nice in the hand because they're kind of that's a triangle. They're triangular, so they fit nicely in the crook of your hand and they have this itty bitty little cap. The only thing that's maddening about this pen is there's nowhere to put the cap. It doesn't sit on top. It doesn't really go anywhere, so high probability of losing it if you are a sloppy reader like myself. So these pens are kind of like reading environment contingent. And then the other one is my favorite Micron pens, which I use these for bullet journaling, and it's really just a classic felt tip capped pen, and it's really great for like precision. They come in all different thicknesses of the felt tip. It feels really nice to write with these. The only thing is that you can't really write fast with these, otherwise the felt tip gets a little dry. So if you're a slow writer and you love like a dark ink precision pen, this is definitely up your alley. But if you sometimes need to write frantically and get all of your thoughts on one page at one time, then my favorite for that is the Atlantis Exact, or just like a gel pen clicky guy. The next piece of equipment that I will sometimes use in my annotation process are highlighters, and much like everyone ever, I have the midliners. I don't highlight often because I actually prefer to just bracket or underline within my annotating, but if I do use a highlighter, I will not really care what color I'm using other than one that matches the cover. And later you'll see that in Jade City, when I annotated that book, I only used a green highlighter if I needed to highlight something, and also color code it with a tab. Highlighters don't really matter to me. I don't have the time to go in between a pen and a highlighter, but again, if I were to use a highlighter, it would just be whatever color matches the cover and makes it look pretty. The last tool that I use when I am annotating sometimes are post-it notes, and it's kind of similar with the highlighters. The color doesn't really matter to me, but I will choose a color that matches the cover or just vibes with the vibe of the frickin' story, you know what I'm saying? So again, with Jade City, I chose some green post-it notes because it's a green cover. You get the idea. But I am the type of reader that will just write all up in my books, in the margin, in the footnote, in the header, top note, whatever the shit. But sometimes that's not enough room. So that's when you pull out a post-it note and you have all of this space to write your thoughts, write your theories, and then you just stick it to the book and then it's ready to go. Now, I typically use post-it notes, especially for books that I'm gonna be in a live show for. That way it's easiest for me to see when I'm flipping through my book where I had specific thoughts, because I write a lot in books, but if I have a post-it note, it obviously will jump out. Or in my opinion, post-it notes are really good for beginning annotators, for people who maybe don't want to write in a book because maybe they're borrowing it from someone or they just don't want to deface their book quite yet. Then Post-it notes are perfect because they won't ruin the page if you stick it to them. They can peel right off, no problem. But you can still put your thoughts on a certain page and part of the story so that you can come back and look through it later. Okay, and then the last tool that you can use while annotating are your fingers. And I say this because I am a dog ear advocate. Again, if it's your book, don't dog ear library books. Don't do that. That's just rude. But if it is your own book, then I am a heavy dog ear advocate. When I first started getting back into reading, I didn't have tabs or anything like that, or times where I ran out of tabs and I wanted to remember certain pages of a book, I would dog ear them so that I knew to come back to those pages later on. For example, I have Beach Read here and I have all of these little itty bitty dog ears going on, literally about that big. And I don't have much of them, but you see that you can still see where those little indentations are when the book is completely closed. Some of them are super tiny, but you know, that shows me where something in the book was that I wanted to come back to. Hey, I'm here to tell you that if you like dog earing, I am on your side. And if you hate dog earing, I understand, but I don't agree. And now, the part we've all been waiting for. We can go into what my color coding system is for my tab colors. So getting on into the colors, we have these top two here, which is like a light purple and a dark purple. These two colors are the same for me because, like I said earlier, there are some colors that I use more than others, and purple is definitely the one for me. In my system, both of these purple colors both mean that something important is happening. Whether it be important facts or information regarding the plot line, or a huge plot twist that I know is going to be super important later on, gets a purple tab. And that's why there's so many purple tabs in my books, because I feel like a lot of things are important. Coming down to the light blue color, you could probably guess what it is if something sad is happening in the story, or on the off chance that I actually did cry at something. Blue tab. And then coming down into the green color, I will use the green tab for any new character that pops up, or if there are any specific physical descriptions or just character development in which I think was like a really good addition, or I think is really important to who the character is as a person or creature. I will additionally use green as world building as well. If there is a specific description going on of where something is in relation to another, or any sort of beautiful description, I will put a green tab if I think that it's important to the story. And then coming down to yellow, it is my soul's color, and therefore it is my happy color. Anything that made me smile, laugh, or I loved a moment that two characters had. Or also I will use a yellow tab if I loved how an author wrote a specific sentence or wrote a specific scene. Then coming down into orange. Orange for me is like a caution color, you know. At least here in the US, all of our like road construction signs are orange. So it's like caution. Therefore, orange for me is anything that like made me angry. Either angry or appalled in a negative way that something happened. Maybe a character did something particularly evil. Or say a character is just acting so insanely stupid that it's making me angry. Another way that I use the orange tab is if something's super kind of messed up. If the description of something going on is super gory or brutal, I'll put an orange tab. And then coming down into pink. Pink is my foreshadowing color. So anything that I think is going to be important for a future scene, pink tab. And the pink tab and the purple tabs can sometimes be interchanged, but I look at the purple being as more facts and important key plot points, and then pink being like something is going to come back to this specific scene, or I have a feeling that something else big is going to happen because of what this person just said. That's when I put a pink tab. And now I kind of just want to flip through some of the past books that I've annotated, and maybe just some extra tips and tricks that I have picked up along the way. One book series that I tabbed in entirety is the Darker Shade of Magic series by V.E. Schwab. I have tabbed every single book and had a great time doing it. You can tell that I used a lot of the purple tabs, and one thing that you might think is, how do you know which ones are more important than others? Or like, how do you know that all of them are actually important plot points? And I would argue and say that they all are important plot points, but one thing that I did do is the farther out the tab came out of the book, the more important the fact or the situation. For example, in the first book, you can tell that this tab is much farther out than the others, and therefore something big happened there that that I wanted to remember. Furthermore, in the second book, we have these ones at the end that are maybe not by much, but they are definitely further out than the other ones in the middle of the book, because at the end of this book, I was losing my mind. It was so good. So that is a way that you can kind of differentiate how important or how mind-blowing some plot twist was in the book, what is to put the tab a little bit further out of the book so that it grabs your attention faster. Another book that I heavily tabbed and annotated was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This book had a lot of tabs and a lot of multiple colored tabs on multiple of the same page. I also was underlining and bracketing a lot, as well as, you know, writing in this one and in the columns, and, you know, I was just trying to keep everything straight, especially in the beginning. There was just a lot going on. But just seeing all of the tabs, especially the pages that have like 5 tabs on the same like face of 2 pages, it just makes me so happy. And then I already mentioned Jade City a couple times in this video, but just to show you what it would look like with some post-it notes in there. With this one, I still did write in the columns of the pages, but there are times where it's not big enough. So I wrote some thoughts or theories on post-it notes and put them on the pages of the books in which those ideas originated, that thought or theory was triggered by that part of the story. And you can also tell that I did use that green highlighter a couple times, like I had previously mentioned. I don't do that a lot, but I did with this one. And the last thing that I want to mention is an idea that I got from Mel over at Mel Reads. Mel was talking about how she will sometimes annotate on the sides and also put some tabs in on the top of a book. And I thought that that was absolutely brilliant because there's 3 sides that we can use. So I still use the same tabbing coding system on the side, but then just like Mel said that she does sometimes, I will put tabs on the top for specific parts of the story that either are extremely important and maybe I just want to differentiate them a little bit more than just putting the tab further out on the page. I could put them on top instead. Or you can use the top for parts of the book that you want to bring up in live show discussion. This book was my January book club pick, so I put some tabs up in the top to make sure that I came to those points during our live show just to enhance the discussion. And then obviously my most recent really heavily tabbed book was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. You can just see that it's completely covered, and these were those like clear, really expensive post-it note tabs that again I don't recommend because they're so stinking expensive, but I was working with what I got and here's the end result. There are a couple different thickness in the tabs in this one. The thicker ones I didn't have as much of, so I used those only for very big plot points or points that I thought were a little bit more exciting or important than others. I don't know, but I tried to use those only in times that I felt were necessary. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's it. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. And while you're down there, if you are still watching, then leave the rainbow emoji. And don't forget to subscribe and like the video. I always appreciate your support. And of course, be kind to one another and happy reading and annotating. Bye.